A DC police officer is in big legal trouble as it's been revealed he tipped off a former Proud Boy leader pending that leader's arrest. So let's dive into this reporting from ABC News. A DC police lieutenant was arrested Friday after he was accused of telling the leader of the far-right Proud Boys that he would be arrested for his actions after December 2020 pro-Trump rally in Washington, obstructing the investigation ahead of the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack and lying to federal investigators afterwards. Shane Lamond, a 24-year veteran of the DC police and then the department's head of intelligence, was indicted on 1 count of obstruction of justice and 3 counts of making false statements and will be arraigned later Friday in US District Court in Washington, prosecutors said. Now here is Shane's smug shot. Again, a 24-year veteran and in charge of intelligence. Get that right. Lamond was in contact with former Proud Boys chairman Enrique Tarrio. Lamond, 47, of Stafford, Virginia, was in touch with the former Proud Boy chairman, Enrique Tarrio, who was arrested on January 4th of 2021 for his part in burning a Black Lives Matter flag stolen from a historic African American church earlier. And here is Henry's smug shot in case you need a reminder who we are referring to. There he is. And Tarrio was sentenced to 155 days for taking part in the stealing and the burning of the Black Lives Matter flag. And of course, his legal troubles wouldn't stop there, as he played a key role in organizing January 6th. Tarrio and 3 other Proud Boys leaders were convicted of seditious conspiracy in the Capitol riot earlier this month. In his trial, Tarrio's defense argued that his communications with Lamond showed the Proud Boys did not conspire to commit violence and that the group had shared its plans with law enforcement. And they probably did share their plans with law enforcement. And as for Lamond, it's just another example of how law enforcement has had trouble dealing with white supremacist enablers infiltrating their ranks. Let's remember this reporting from 2022. A Rutgers investigation on May 6 indicates that a significant number of US police instructors have ties to the constellation of armed right-wing militias and white supremacist hate groups. A report that adds to a fast-growing body of evidence showing a deadly threat inside US police departments. Now, Mayor, again, this right here is not new either. This is really as old as the United States. If we look at some of the oldest white supremacist groups, the Ku Klux Klan, for example, the White Citizens Council, those types of groups often had people from politics and also law enforcement in their ranks. And even when white folks weren't officially in one of those groups, they utilized their power in ways that continue to uplift white supremacy in the United States of America.
Listen, I'm not surprised. It is naive for black people to pretend that we don't know what this link between white nationalists and police departments is. I mean, if we're doing the history, right? North Carolina was the first police department in this country that came from what? The slave catchers. So we know slave catchers became police departments. So it ain't hard for us to see that 2-3 generations removed that there's an oversampling of white nationalists, not just in the police department, but in the ranks of the military. And we got sitting senators saying, I don't call them white nationalists, I call them Americans, meaning he's comfortable with them being, this is the reason we can't recruit because we're attacking white nationalists, is what Tuberville said. So this idea that we should be surprised, DC should have known this was happening when they started recruiting officers, more white officers from West Virginia and Virginia to come to DC and police them black bodies. So I'm not surprised at all. You know, this is a sad situation, but it is par for the course for American police departments.
It is, unfortunately, it is, and not to say all, but far too many. And some of the things that can be done to really turn this thing around, more psychological evaluations, doing a deeper dive on the background of these officers that you hire. I mean, deep dive on their background. And in today's age, man, with all the technology we have, it's really not hard to find at least publicly, where people stand, especially if they are using a social media, more interviews with people in and around their family and their neighborhood to figure out what makes them tick. Because when you have that, it's an enormous amount of power to be a law enforcement officer, and it takes a lot of responsibility and a high duty to truly mean protect and serve. And that means protect and serve all communities, not lord over those communities. And the fact that you brought up, Mayor, that how law enforcement began in the Black community was not for protect and serve. It was slave patrols. It was to hunt down Black people. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And this country has not atoned for any of that. We have not had truth and reconciliation in this country on a whole host of things that are linked to Black lives in the United States of America. So law enforcement is especially necessary because of the power that they hold. They hold life and death in their hands. And it's not just about training. Training is one thing. I believe in training, don't get me wrong, but training can't solve all things. It can't solve if this really is in the heart of that person and that they're using this power as being a law enforcement to further propagate their white racist tendencies. This is truth.